everybody. Hey, Shirley, how are you doing?
Hi, Kel.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. And welcome back to Psychology and the Soul, everybody, where psychology and spirituality come together in a real, grounded conversation. And tonight, Shirley, we're going to be talking about parenting, or as I would call it, boomers versus the elder millennials. Take you on that.
Millennials, yeah. Yeah. It's changed so much.
Oh.
And I think for the better, which of course the pendulum tends to always swing to one end until it finds a happy medium. Yeah. Maybe we're a little bit here, but yeah.
It probably has. I mean, spiritually speaking, we do have to, clear up so many different things that, from my generation, from the earlier generations. And I think that the generation that are having children now really are trying to do that. And when I told my daughter, who is an elder millennial, what we were doing tonight, she's like, "Oh, really, Mom? Did you mention you better take accountability? Did you take all of these things?" And I'm like, "So, Holiday, if you're watching, yes, I take accountability for everything. And I'm sorry." So, but parenting has changed. It has really, really changed. And family dynamics have changed. I mean, Shirley, even from when I went to graduate school, family dynamics have changed just, a lot. Boundaries have changed. We didn't have boundaries. All you and I do now is talk about boundaries.
I know. We didn't. And let me tell you, when I was learning all the somatic stuff,
I
would cringe and go, "Oh God, I fucked up so bad." My daughter, I would just cringe. And I did a lot of repair, which repair is the next best thing. So people out there who are listening and have your adult kids that, you'll kind of feel the same way we felt. There's always room for repair.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And really, emotional expectations have changed, from, children are seen and not heard. How about now? They are very heard.
Oh, yeah.
And things have really changed. And parents are under a lot of pressure. I see that in my own life. And many families today do feel divided. In every which way they can be divided, through divorce, through political statements, through the working so hard, just trying to keep up, exhausted and confused or afraid of doing the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. And I will say that some grandparents might feel shut out even from their grandchildren. And children are struggling, and everybody seems to be, on some level, walking on eggshells with this. And so, Shirley, what do you think? Are we living through one of the biggest shifts in family dynamics that we've seen in generations?
I think so. Absolutely. And because there's so much more awareness now. So it's a great thing. Again, pendulum may swing. I get a lot of my older patients who are grandmas now with their either son or daughter saying, "Okay, Mom, but we don't say this anymore. And we can't do this anymore." And, and so they feel a little, but again, I do believe that it's for the better without taking it to an extreme. And so I'm glad. I'm happy about it.
Oh, things had to change. They had to change. Don't you agree that family roles are even evolving?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's, a lot more emotions are coming into play, a lot more emotional language than our parents and grandparents had. It wasn't emotions. My mother used to tell me when I was sad or something, "Change your face." That was her line, "Change your face." So I had to be with a smile on my face, Okay.
So you know what my mom's was? And my mom was a psychologist. Her line was, "Be a little more waspy." By the way, I understood what she meant.
And when you break that down, what it means is suppress your emotions.
Shut up. Don't say a word. Carry on.
Suppress your emotions, change your face, act a little more waspy. What's the definition of waspy? Everything's fine.
Everything is fine.
So we're so much more in touch with our emotions now, and teaching our kids to be more in touch with our emotions. And the older generation is, I think, struggling to adopt a little bit. But as we'll talk about, it's not that hard. When someone broke it down to me about emotions and I got it, I went, "Oh, well, that's not complex at all."
But Shirley, for me, it's up there with Carrie Gonia's work. It's almost like the loyalty, and we'll talk about this when we get into the grandparents. But for me, it's like the loyalty that I had. What was that?
I don't know.
I don't know. The loyalty of, well, my mom did it this way and her mother did it this way, and this is the way we do it. It's almost a blind loyalty to that. And that's that generational work that Kerry Gonia does, family constellation.
Right. Generational trauma.
Mhm.
And yes, and understanding that you're not being loyal by parenting the same way. You're being loyal by trying to be the best parent that you can be, just like your mom was trying to be the best parent.
Yeah.
You know, or mom and dad were trying to be the best parents. We just didn't know what we didn't know.
I would never forget, Shirley, when I had my daughter and I was nursing, and my mother said, "Oh, why are you nursing?" And I said, "Because I want to nurse. It's what I'm doing. I think it's the greatest thing in the world." And she's, "Well, how long are you planning on doing that?" And I said, "I don't know, 10 years? I don't know." And she goes, "Oh, Kellee, no, just a couple of months." And I said, no. I nursed for a year. I would have probably continued nursing. And my mother was like, "Okay, now you have to stop now." I mean, it was such a different
I know.
thing, it was so different. But anyway, I think that what makes this conversation so emotional is that most people are not trying to hurt one another. I think parents are trying to protect their children. And I think grandparents are also trying to love the families. And children are also trying to find a place in a rapidly changing world. As I observe my grandchildren who are 6 and 9 in a completely new world that we had. So, tonight is not about choosing sides at all. It's just really about understanding what is possibly underneath all, if there's any conflict, or really underneath everything that we're going to be discussing. Because many parenting decisions, often they will come from fear. And many families are in pain, have been in pain. And so behind all of these boundaries is a story that maybe has never been fully heard. Right. And it's not because it's about parenting anymore. It's about identity and emotional safety and boundaries and social media. We didn't have social media. We never had. Oh my gosh. And mental health is absolutely much more talked about now than ever, right?
Absolutely.
That public judgment because of social media. And then what I've noticed with my clients that are young, that have children, they have a fear of getting it wrong, that they'll be judged on getting it wrong. So I thought that was interesting. But, let's talk about this, Shirley. Has parenting become fear-based? What do you think of it?
Well, I think it's become fear-based because it's become very judged, like you were saying, and so we have to find a happy medium. We have to, we have to understand that we will make mistakes, and there's a beauty in making mistakes, because then a child learns from those mistakes if we can repair, right? And I also think that the wonderful thing about social media, and I see it all the time, are these little excerpts of do this with your child, and they give you the neurobiology behind it. So you learn so much with these little sound bites, and to not stay in that, I did it wrong, which then turns into fear-based parenting because you don't want to do anything wrong, to be own it, admit it, and repair.
And not only that, but because trauma has been such a word now that we talk about on a daily basis, I think parents are afraid of causing trauma to their children. I really do. And of emotionally harming their children. In other words, when we were younger, none of this really, we certainly wouldn't have put them in harm's way intentionally, but I don't think we took anything on and like this. And I'll tell you, Shirley, I watched last night, I'm a huge Earth, Wind, and Fire fanatic. And there's a new documentary on it, on Earth, Wind, and Fire. Did you happen to see it? It's on HBO, everybody. Did you happen to see it?
No.
Oh my gosh, Shirley. Maurice White, who was the founder of Earth, Wind, and Fire, his background is so traumatic that even going forward with his children now, they're probably Holiday's age now, and they're very aware of his trauma. His mother left him at 5 years old, not to return, period, for 10 years. And his father had already died. So he really has all this trauma.
Wow.
And now we would know, if this were to happen, we would know so much more. But in those days,
in those days, we don't know. And also, who knows, if a parent, like we've talked before, has a personality disorder, they wouldn't care, and it'd be all self-serving and they wouldn't. So, but trauma awareness has so many benefits to understand what happens, when you do certain behaviors, when you say certain things. And so then you can autocorrect. If I know this is happening to my child, or this may happen from a neurobiological standpoint to my child, then I can figure out how to do it differently.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is you can recognize the symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
You can recognize those. And then you would also help to reduce shame of everything and self-blame. And also, this is a great opportunity for parents that I've noticed that they are working with, is helping with self-regulating them.
Yes.
To learn self-regulation and increasing self-compassion.
Yes, absolutely. Two huge things. If as a parent, you learn how to regulate yourself when you're in the midst of something, and again, no one's ever going to be able to do it 100% of the time, so don't feel bad when you mess up. But if you can regulate your own nervous system, then you can teach your child how to regulate their nervous system. And that is one of the most incredible gifts you can give to yourself and to your child. It's not about ignoring the feeling or repressing it, but it's about, naming the feeling, knowing that it's going to pass, and do just one or two tools on how to help regulate your nervous system so the feeling pass and you're not reacting in that moment. When you can regulate your emotions, you lessen the risk of reacting and you increase the possibility of responding. Yeah. And
so parents are teaching their children these techniques and these tips now to do that.
Yeah.
It's so important that they're doing that.
Absolutely. It's so important. Doing it for themselves. So the child is also observing that, so let's say there's an altercation between a child, having a tantrum because they want, I don't know, a cookie before dinner or whatever. If the parent loses it, then that becomes extremely scary for the child, and the child isn't learning anything by role modeling, by watching. If the parent takes a moment, regulates his behavior, and then comes back to the child in a more regulated, calm state, that child not only is now learning how to regulate their own behavior, but also witnessing what happened, and they take everything in.
Boy, you're absolutely right. You just reminded me, I was with August and my granddaughter Lulu, and we were with some of their kids that are friends, their kid friends. And we were at some place, and August and another of his very good friends, a little girl who's also was his age, 9. And they kind of had an altercation. August got pissed off. She got pissed off. I don't know what happened. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. Is this day going to be ruined now? You know what I mean? Like what's happening here? Well, let me tell you what, the parents backed off and said, all right, you two sit down and you talk this out. And I'm like, okay, that would just never happen. I mean, really, somebody would get beaten up, and you boomers out there know what I'm talking about. This would never have happened. So I'm like kind of astounded, and I'm watching them from behind. Everybody gave them space. Well, you did this, and this hurt my feelings. And they talked about, that I thought you cared about me, and if you cared about me, you wouldn't do this. And I got to tell you, they worked itself out. It took about 30 minutes because I could see August was pissed. She was pissed. And I looked at Holiday. I said, boy, are you sure? I mean, you don't think we should just grab them and, get in the car and head off?
Oh, no.
She's like, no, Mom, just back off. And I'm like, okay, that's right. Well, this boomer is going to go have a cocktail while they work it out. And I think that's what happened.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, it's so foreign, but it is so important. I see little videos of one little kid, is saying to another little kid, okay, breathe. Let's take a deep breath, and that's how you do it. You validate the feeling, as a parent, you would go, wow, that's a big emotion, or you're really angry right now. Let's take a deep breath. Yeah. And it's that simple. Naming the emotion for anyone, even for us, the neuroscientists say, name it to tame it. When you name the emotion, it's almost like the emotion just needs to be seen, and then you do something, you take a moment, you take a step back, you take a deep breath, after you name the emotion. That's, one very simple rule and technique on how to regulate.
Wow, wow. And Shirley, I know you've worked with families for decades. Without sharing maybe any specifics, what have you seen with parenting change over the course of your career? Like
Yeah.
probably some of the bigger changes.
Well, before it was all about achievement. Achieving, and
Oh,
it still
so
kind
true.
of is a little, I mean, how
Mhm.
are they doing in school? Are they succeeding? Are they staying in trouble? And the competition of the more private schools, who's going to make it to what college and stuff, that adds so much pressure.
Mhm.
Today there is, especially with the younger kids, there's a different fear. It's the parent. Am I emotionally damaging my kids?
Mhm.
Am I doing enough? And they second guess their decisions, because did I do it right? Did this mess them up? So there's a lot more emphasis on that.
Right. Okay. And
And
I would think that social media might make it a little worse on some level.
well, worse in what way?
Well, I mean, because parents are told, like, am I too strict, or am I too lenient, or am I validating? Am I over validating? Am I not validating enough?
Yeah, it depends on how you're looking at social media. If you're looking at social media as a comparison, then yeah, you're always going to feel like shit.
Okay.
If you're looking at social media to get tips, which I love that so many of the tips are based again in neurobiology, then you can really buy into them. And that's what I love about social media. So you can use social media in different ways. Don't use it to compare.
Okay.
Use it to learn, to have these little sound bites, to learn how to do it. Because if you set a really great foundation with your kids by teaching them emotions, yeah, that, it's really sad. And sometimes we just need to feel it, teaching them how to sit in their emotions. Little kids, what we used to do in, time out.
Mm-hmm.
A child has a big emotion, and what do? Stick them in the room by themselves. Again, that's one of the things that I learned, So now you're leaving a child with big emotions that are so confusing. They don't know what to do with their big emotions. And now you're punishing them, saying this emotion's wrong, and you're throwing them in a room to deal with it on their own. Ugh, even saying that hurts. Instead of, wow, that's a big emotion. Come here, sit with me. Or the parent sitting on the floor with the child, letting them have their big tantrum while they're just holding the space. In that moment, it's important to understand when a child has already gone, overboard, the thinking part of the brain, just like us as adults, goes offline. And so you can't reason with a child. Like when you see a parent trying to reason with a child who's crying and having, the thinking part of the brain isn't online. So they really can't understand what you're saying or hear you. So
Boy, that it's so important, everything you just said, because again, my generation did it very differently.
very differently, very differently. You try to reason with them. I see sometimes some parents do, no, but listen, you can have the snack after we, and the kids just, so best is to go, yeah, that's a big emotion. Yeah. And you just sit with them.
Wow. Wow, Shirley.
There's so much more in those moments.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that would help to raise resilient children.
Absolutely.
It's the key to life on earth is resiliency. And we can talk a lot about emotional awareness, which I think is really, really, really important. But helping children become resilient, and we don't want to remove every obstacle in their path, because we can't do that. I mean, I always think of my grandchildren, and all children really, as like wine vines, because the stronger and the tougher the terrain happens to be, grows the strongest of the vines. I think of it that way, but I also think of it as being resilient. And these kids are going to go through an awful lot. This timeline is intense. And I always tell myself and remind myself that these children those parents chose to be here at this time period, so they will be strong vines, go through becoming resilient.
Yeah. And there's a difference between resilience, because you've had to shove it down so you can take anything. And there's a difference between resilient because you can handle anything that comes your way because you have the tools.
Yeah.
Those are two very different forms of resilience.
Yeah. Oh, so true, Shirley. So true. Oh my gosh. That is so true with that. So, and also in life, I was going to say, we don't have to validate every feeling. I mean, life doesn't remove every obstacle. I mean, it just doesn't. And we don't have to eliminate disappointment. Children will feel the disappointments, and they have to learn how to tolerate failure and rejection, and heartbreak, criticism, frustration, discomfort. But how important is that psychologically, Shirley?
Yeah. Well, it's so important because problem solving builds confidence. It's not a good idea to always have your child experience a positive experience. Getting through something that was painful or hurtful, or when a child, doesn't hit the ball, and doesn't make the goal or something like that, is so important to teach a child that, yeah, we mess up and we can feel bad and life goes on.
Well, guess what happened the other day? My daughter told me this. Holiday shared this with me, that it was August's turn. He's in baseball, and it was his turn to get up to bat. And the coaches on both sides started arguing, and he was about ready to hit the ball. And the coaches started arguing, not about him, but about God knows what, whatever. And they actually started arguing like intensely. And then they stopped arguing. And then it was like, okay, August, now you're up. And he was pretty shook from watching all of this. And he struck out, which is normally he hits really well and he's always on base. He struck out, and both coaches walked over to him. I mean, talking about repair, they walked over to him and they said, "Look, we're sorry that we did this in front of you. We should have taken this outside. It has nothing to do with you." But I thought that was such a good repair for him.
Such an incredible insight,
right?
Coaches to do that and to realize that might have been and was upsetting to August, and to be able to own it. There is so much power in owning. Our generation was taught that if you apologize to your child, you're present as weak. And the exact opposite is true. You actually all of a sudden become a giant in your child's eyes.
Yeah.
So it's discomfort is part of growth. To be able to say, yeah, you missed that one. That's okay. Is part of life. And when you learn it young as a child, then you can tolerate it better as an adult too. Because recovery after failure builds resilience. That's an important piece, and all this starts to build your confidence. I can mess up and still be whole.
And still move forward.
Right.
Still be able to move forward. So I want to ask a question that might be a little uncomfortable here, but are parents protecting children from genuine harm? What I mean by that are some parents trying to protect children from emotions that they never themselves learned how to manage.
Well, that's just it. I'm glad that you're bringing that up, because we can parent only by knowing what we know. And I was, of course, with my mother saying, change your face, emotions weren't really talked about in my house and you had to suppress them. So I didn't have the tools to teach my daughter how to feel emotions, how to name them, how to process through them, So you don't know what you don't know, and you can't teach what you haven't been taught unless you go to therapy and you work through your stuff and you are aware of stuff before you have kids.
Even then, you still, again, that family constellation. My mom did it. I did it. I still can't get over that Holiday is really broken up from all of that, broken free from the way that I was raised.
I think awareness makes a difference. I couldn't be aware that, telling my daughter, I'll just use this as an example, telling my daughter, change your face, is a good thing if I'm now aware how terrible that is and how feeling emotions and teaching a child emotions is so valuable. Right. So I think it was done that way because there was no awareness of it.
Right.
Holiday is so aware.
Oh, she's very aware. She's very aware.
People have done it differently, even just because you did it that way.
Right. Yeah. And, we can't protect children from life, because life does include disappointment. Life includes conflict. life includes difficult people. Hence, we have a book coming out about that. Life includes learning how to navigate relationships that are not always perfect, whatever perfect would be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because, and that wouldn't be a realistic world either. You know, some kids whose parents really sheltered them from any kind of disappointing experience did a disservice to them, because then as an adult, you don't have the tools. And when something goes wrong, you lose it. And now you're an adult losing it, you know? Right. So it's such an important skill to teach a child.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, resilience cannot develop in the absence of struggle. So you do need struggle. Right. I mean, you're going to come back to that, but you also have to have the awareness of the emotions and allowing the emotions and dealing with your things.
I remember I was talking to a friend of mine who had a boy. I think the boy must have been 6 or 7 at the time. And he was getting bullied at school. And my friend didn't really know how to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And so one night I go, just validate the emotion. Just say, wow, that must have really hurt your feelings. Oh, that's it. And so one night he was putting his son to bed, and the little kids start talking about being bullied and what the kids were saying and really feeling terrible about it. And the dad said, wow, that must have really hurt your feelings. Mm-hmm. The kid looked at the dad, grabbed his face and said, yes, Dad, that's how it felt. Turned around and went to sleep, because he felt seen. He felt validated. It wasn't about taking away those feelings.
Right.
It wasn't about, you know, trying to make them feel better. Well, you know what? You're better than those kids. And so, you know, which is what we were taught.
Yeah.
Right.
Or actually, my generation ahead of you was, oh, just go punch him in the face. Right. Very different. See, you've already progressed.
Which at times, you know, but yeah, it was just validating the feelings. I'll never forget. I saw this post where the child, I think he was coming home being bullied, and the mother had the child on her lap and just holding him and say, yeah, that really hurts. Mm. Again, not trying to change the feeling, not trying to make the child feel better, just being with the child with the feelings the child was feeling. And that's not an easy thing to do.
Right.
Because as a parent, we have a tendency, an impulse to want to fix it, you know, to take away that bad feeling. But it's so important. That can come later. In that moment, it's so important to let the child feel their feelings. You're teaching so much by saying, my feelings are okay. There's nothing wrong with how I feel. Because when we try to switch the feeling too quickly, the message we're sending the child is, oh my God, there must be something wrong with how I feel. Mm. You know? So teaching a child it's okay how you feel. And then you can give words of wisdom, words of advice, words of encouragement after the feeling has been felt.
Ah, yeah. Okay. And, you know, Shirley, many adults today, I mean, literally are looking back at their childhood, which is the work that we do as therapists. Mm-hmm. We look through it, but they're looking at it as their childhood with a different lens. And so now what I find in the work that I do, and I'm sure that work that you do, they're identifying their wounds. They could literally look back and go, and I'll say, what happened at 4? And they'll go back and they'll think about it. And then these synapses start to, you know, pop through, and they go, oh yeah, this is what happened. Da, 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 da. So they're also recognizing patterns, and they're processing experiences that hurt them. And in many ways, that's really, really healthy. So I guess here's my question. Are we healing our childhoods, or are we rewriting them? Because life is rarely seen as all good or all bad. And most parents were not all villains.
Well, of course.
I think that most parents were probably, you know, had traumas from the get-go, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
I'd like to say that people were, you know, they just weren't as conscious. I hate that term. They did the best they could. I actually hate that term.
Yeah.
I just don't like
it. Again, what you don't know, you know, unless a parent is a sociopath and deliberately getting off on hurting, you know, their children, you don't know. You're on what I call emotional autopilot. You're just doing what you learned and operating what you haven't healed yet. So it's very important in our work. People want to move too quickly to, well, my parents did the best they could. Okay, that's the goal. That's great, to accept parents for who they are, the fallible human beings, right? But we tend to skip over the anger, the hurt, the disappointment that it caused us as kids. And that's such an important piece to heal, to validate, to feel. It is an important part of the healing process so you can get to the other end of acceptance, right?
Right. And I think memory is complex on top of everything else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We may not remember things exactly, but who cares? It's how we felt. You know, when I do somatic work, the story, who cares? Maybe, you know, the person is felt a certain way and now is creating, you know, a possible memory around it. It doesn't matter. What we heal is how the person felt.
Yeah. And parents can make mistakes and still love their children.
Oh gosh, absolutely. I think most parents love their children and make mistakes like we did.
Yeah. Sorry, holiday. Oh my gosh. So, you know, this topic reminds me of something that I actually see often. And I always have people in my sessions that, you know, will explore their childhood. And by the way, even if I'm doing a mediumship, you know, a mother or father will come through and say something. And I mean, then the whole thing is sparked on this. And old hurts can come up, and then questions can come up. And, you know, that's all part of healing. But I've also watched people go from healing to identifying, you know, the hurt. I mean, literally identifying it, which is really, I think it's important that, you know, you can hold space for that. I think it's really important because your pain matters and your experiences do deserve to be acknowledged. And again, you know, parents are you know, earthlings came in and, you know, earthlings. And not every time, you know, everything has to turn out to be some, you know, horrible trauma either. Right. So not every disagreement has to be abuse, and, you know, not every mistake, you know, causes great damage. Right. So anyway, it's just the human experience that we're having, you know, we're all having on earth. But I think, you know, one of my favorite things to talk about are grandparents, because I am a grandparent. I know a lot of people are out there, grandparents.
Let me back up just a little bit before we get into grandparents, because too many people also I hear saying, you know, stop blaming your parents, you know, that kind of thing. The reality is that's where it happened and that's what caused it. You know, the misattunements in childhood. The brain develops from 0 to 6. And so your environment sets the tone. So that's who are we mostly with? Our parents. So it's not about blaming, but the environment as well. Caregivers, if we're in a war-torn country, that's going to affect how the brain develops. It's not about blaming. It's about really understanding where it came from, being able to, again, allow you to feel your feelings of disappointment, of anger. And then, because as an adult, you're responsible for your own healing. Yes, we know where it came from. I don't call that the blame part. I call that the understanding piece. But we can't just leave it there. We now as adults are responsible for healing our own, you know, wounds.
Yeah, we absolutely are. And so let's talk about grandparents for a bit, because grandparents and boundaries, and there's like sometimes there can be a hidden grief with grandparents. And I think it's it's a deep wound that happens inside of families, and it might be the grief of grandparents. And it's not because grandparents don't respect boundaries, although some do not. And it's not because they don't love their children. And it's not, many may feel that they're being judged or corrected or restricted or kind of possibly pushed to the edge of the family. Not all families, but I am seeing this in my practice a lot. And I don't think that parents necessarily understand what that feels like. Are you seeing any of this, Shirley?
Well, it is, you know, grandparents are feeling a little marginalized, or, you know, okay, you can't do this anymore. You can't do that. So they're kind of afraid of just being themselves because they're too afraid of what I might do wrong, you know? So again, the pendulum is going to swing to an extreme until it finds a happy medium. I had the exact opposite. Not a surprise, because my mother was so fear-based and so afraid to make mistakes that when I would bring Sid over, well, what do you want me to do with her? Is it okay to do this? Is it okay to, what time is she going to eat? And I'm like, I don't know. What time did you feed me? Or what should I feed her? I don't know. What did you feed me when I was 2? And she was so afraid of making a mistake that that
Boy,
she
I had the opposite experience with my mother. The opposite. Wow.
Yeah. So, but the more aware, parents are, the elder millennial parents, like your like Holiday says, the more aware they are of this neurobiology piece of what affects kids and what is not okay anymore. I would encourage, if any of you are watching, to say it in a kinder way and just explain to the grandparent, it's not that you're doing anything wrong, it's that we're learning so much. And truly, in the last 20 years of brain science and brain research, we've learned so much. And if you come at it with, a grandparent certainly wouldn't want to hurt their grandchild. So if you come at it that way, mom or dad, I know you love, my child so much. And so let me show you what they've discovered and what they've learned, that when we do it this way, this is what he or she is going to interpret. But if we do it this way, then that opens this up.
Well, it's funny, Shirley, because one of the biggest tensions that we have actually today is that collision between the old wisdom and then the new information that you're talking about. It's true because, many grandparents hear, and I remember hearing Holiday say this to me so many times, Mom, that's not how we do it anymore. And I'm like, what? But that's how we always did it. And that's outdated, Mom. We don't do that. We don't say that. No, we don't feed them that way. No, we don't comfort them that way. We do this differently. And I was like, the first several, I don't know, years kind of caught me off guard. I'd like to say, several months, but I have to laugh because like some of the differences between, my generation, the boomers, and the way it is now, it's like, if we just talk about discipline and authority, I mean, seriously, Shirley, in my era, it was very authoritarian.
Oh, yeah.
It was corporal punishment. It was common. It was obedience was expected. And how many times have we heard this? Well, she was the good girl. She was a good girl.
Exactly. Those words aren't said anymore.
We didn't get it. But loyalty also was expected.
Yeah.
It just was. So now there's like a total emphasis on positive discipline, reasoning. It's like, what? Setting limits with explanation and non-physical consequences. Very, very different. Now, in my era too, we had free play. We had less supervision. I will say that. Everything was very different. But now there's a greater focus on supervised play, all the safety rules, the car seat. I remember when the kids were here a couple of months ago, Dawn said to me, Lulu still has to sit into in a car seat, and August is still in a car seat, and they're big kids. They're not tiny. And I said, yeah, I think it's the law now, like to a certain weight and a certain height and whatever, and things. I mean, talk about change. But here's a big one too in the new generation here: technology and screens. Like with us, okay, you wanted to watch TV, you can watch TV for a little bit, Now it's like screens are essential to learning. And parents have to figure this part out.
Right, exactly. And there still needs to be some boundaries with that, which I think a lot of parents have boundaries, but it's changed so much. I remember, the stuff that was going on when we were kids is just so, these millennials will just be horrified.
They'd be horrified
about it. The things that we thought were okay. I just saw something today about, do you remember the molds where you used to put like this extremely toxic, goo or whatever, and it was on a heater, and it used to harden the mold, and then we would play with it. And what it was made of was so toxic.
Oh golly, I don't remember that, but I'm sure I had it.
And that, right. So many different things that we had that we didn't even think about it. What you just mentioned a moment ago. I remember after doing homework, I used to go out and bike ride, and I didn't have to come back until it was dark, and nobody knew where I was.
And I bet you didn't wear a helmet.
No. Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I wouldn't ever get those kids unless they had the helmet. I'd have to say I learned an awful lot, in this dealing with my grandchildren now. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
I respect what she has to say, and do that. Remember Dr. Spock, remember? Okay, sure. Let's talk about this.
Oh gosh.
Remember Dr. Spock and sleep training. Oh my God. Wow, that was a big one.
Don't even get me started on
Let's get you started on that, because that was a big one.
That's a big one that, again, because of all the information in neuroscience, sleep training is so awful. Even, and some parents still do it now, which I see when I have my younger patients that just had a child, feeding at certain times, putting them on a schedule to feed and to sleep and stuff. What happens is the child gets disconnected from their body. Their body will tell them when they want to eat. Their body will tell them when they're tired. And yes, it's harder for the parent because there's no set schedule, but it's so much healthier for the child to go along with their own body. When they sleep, when they're tired, they'll sleep. When they're hungry, they'll eat, instead of putting them on a thing. But the worst thing is the sleep.
So explain what sleep training is or was, and Dr. Spock, that was like a big deal.
Well, it was how to get a child to sleep through the night, so then you could sleep through the night, which I get.
Yeah.
And so it was letting a child cry it out. So the child is crying, you put it in the crib, child is crying, and you kind of go in, oh, it's okay, then leave, let the child cry a little bit more, then go in, it's okay, leave. Sometimes the child will get so upset he would throw up. That's fear. That's not upsetness, that's fear, right? So what happens in the cycle of crying is babies don't have any other way to talk, to say how they feel other than crying, right? So a cry means I need something.
Okay.
Maybe I need to be fed. Maybe I need to be changed. Maybe I just need to be held because I'm, because all mammals, even a baby needs to be held. We're all mammals. And nobody comes. The child screams a little bit more. The protest is a little bit more, and nobody comes, right? The child screams a lot, cries a lot, because it's, listen to me, I need something, I need something, I need something, and nobody comes. The reason why sleep training works is because then the child dissociates. Nobody's coming. I am scared to death. I am about to die, and nobody's coming. So they shut it down to preserve energy. So when the child stops crying, it's because it's dissociated. Wow. And when you learn that, when you know that that's what it is, it's so scary. A lot of people believe, well, I'm sleep training so the child can be independent. We have this thing in our society where we want our kids to be independent and self-reliant from the get-go. And that happens in time. That's developmental. Another thing of sleep training is to teach a child how to self-soothe. Well, that's the most ridiculous thing ever. A child, there isn't the myelination in the brain. A child doesn't learn how to self-soothe. It learns how to soothe itself by how it was soothed. So yes, expect that the first year you're going to be woken up. Expect that the first year is going to, dare I say it, suck for your sleep, right? Yeah. But you have to do it that way, because the more a child feels safe, the more I start crying and my mom comes to me or someone comes to me, I can start to depend on people. I know the world is safe, and I know I can depend on others. By the time they turn 2, the developmental stage of exploring the world, now they're safe because they know they have, it's called safe haven. They know they're safe at home, so you're starting with that foundation. What people think is that if I coddle them too much when they're 1 and 2, then they're going to cling to me. Yeah. The exact opposite is true. They're actually going to be more independent because they feel safer.
Right.
So it's a little counterintuitive, but understanding the neurobiology of it will really help.
Right. Wow, Shirley.
Sorry, I went off. I'm getting off my soapbox. It's crazy.
You and I have had this conversation many a time.
Yeah.
I mean, things as you've pointed out that we've learned now that we didn't know before.
Yeah. And it's funny because I didn't know it when Sid was when Sid was a newborn. I learned this later, but intuitively, I just didn't feel right that it was okay for her to be alone in a room sleeping by herself. So she always slept with me. And, parents talk about, well, what about us and our intimacy and sex? So go have sex somewhere else. Once the child falls asleep in your bed, go to the spare room, go in the living room, have sex, and then come back.
Yeah, right.
You just have to adjust. You have to shift things. It's not going to look the same for a little while.
Right. Gosh, Shirley.
Yeah.
That's so true. Oh my gosh. Well, I appreciate that. And I'll just mention the sound machines, because I had to get used to the sound machines. I still don't understand the idea behind the concept of the sound machines, because they use them when the kids go. What is the concept behind a sound machine?
Well, it could be, there's pros and cons to that. They thought that it was kind of self-soothing, and it gave something to focus on, and it's soothing because it's a sound. The sound it's like putting a fan on at night. The sound of the fan. I knew this a while back. I don't remember what the argument against it is.
Okay.
But it's too.
I'll tell you the argument against it. It's too noisy. That's it right there. I'm a boomer.
Well, does she put it on light, or does she put it really?
Oh, it's so loud that I could hear it. She's got a huge house. I could hear it down the street. Oh, and I travel a lot with them. And when we travel, they bring said devices of the ocean. And Holiday's like, but Mom, you love the ocean. I'm like, yeah, at the ocean. I like the ocean, at the ocean. But even when I'm at the ocean, listening to the ocean, when I want to go to bed, I don't want, I like quiet.
Sometimes the ocean's too loud, isn't it?
Oh my gosh. Sometimes it's really loud. I remember I lived on the ocean. It was too loud. I'm like, turn that down. Anyway, so these are some stories that I will be sharing with my grandkids, because one of the things, as a grandparent that you can do is, tell them, some of the funny stories, and, tell them the heartfelt stories that you have. And the other thing that I've done with my grandkids is I have really worked hard to teach them spirituality. I think teaching them spirituality is really important for them to come to, that there's a greater thing on earth. There's, in life, there's a greater purpose here. There's a greater energy. And I started with teaching them yoga, both of them.
Oh, lovely.
Yoga and meditation. Yoga and meditation. Mm-hmm. And they are spiritual beings, and they understand that, and they have a spiritual awareness. So I share a lot of that with them. And again, share as many things that you can with them. I don't care if it's making cookies, even if, whatever it happens to be, whatever the tradition is. And for us, we love to do art. We love to, create things. But I will share something that happened that it still was like, it cracks me up. And yet it got my attention, as I was in a really big hurry, trying to get Lulu. I had like a million things that Holiday wanted me to do while I was in Texas. And so I was like, come on, Lulu, we got to hurry up. We got to go. Come on, I need you to get going, because we got to get to the next thing. And that's the way I was raised. That's what I do. That's the way I did with her mother. So I said to Lulu, come on, we got to go. We got to hurry up. And she gets out of the car. She puts her hands on her hip and she says, Gigi, stop pressuring me. I was like, what? Oh, it was me. But it got my attention. And I was like, whoa, I think this is different.
Good for her. But see, there's so many layers to that. First of all, Holiday's done a great job to give her a voice.
Truly.
You have to suppress her voice.
Yeah.
Second of all, you've created a space where she felt safe enough to say that to you, knowing that she wasn't going to get in trouble. She wasn't going to get yelled at. And at times you could say, listen, I hear you, but we have to go anyways. Or absolutely, let me give you some time.
I did that. I think I said, you're right. I'm sorry. I am, pressuring you. And then I said, but we have a lot of things to do. I shouldn't have gone there, but I was like, come on, get your ass moving. We got to go. Give me your backpack.
But the truth is, and what some of the criticism, with some people is, you're not accommodating the child in every little whim, and you're not letting the child be the adult, be the boss of things, of how things go. That's some of the criticism that people have on, always listening to a child and stuff like that. You're not, because if you still have to go, you can still say, Lulu, thank you for saying that. I hear what you're saying, but right now we do have to go. So I'm sorry, honey.
Right.
You feel pressured.
Good point. It doesn't have to be, they don't need to be responsible for any of that for very long, but she did get to say what she needed to say, which was really, really important. And I heard it. Exactly. I heard it. And I remember thinking, I got to tell this story. This is a good one.
Oh, that's hilarious. And other times because we grew up in a, time where everything had to be fast, and you realize, oh, wait a minute, we can slow it down. then you can say, you know what, honey, you're right. Yeah, let's slow things down. We're not in a hurry right now.
Right.
So it can go either way. It's not always doing what the child, needs in that moment, but it's validating what they're saying.
Right. And I really want to say with today's discussion, Shirley, because I think it's been such an important one, that, we can change, we can grow, we can expand our awareness as adults, as grandparents. We can do that as in a different generation. And I'm in awe of this generation. I'm in awe of it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, as a grandmother, as a boomer grandmother, there are some things that I love to, show them, the photographs, the traditions, show them where they came from, what things are valued. So I think that's what grandparents can contribute to.
Absolutely.
I think that's really important. Really, from a family systems lens, Cheryl, boy, have things changed.
They have. But like you're saying, there's a difference between, giving a child a voice, discipline, that kind of thing, and the things that we do differently now because of what we've learned. And also teaching traditions, bringing in old customs, those are two very different things. It's nice for a child to know the grandparent and what happened then, and bringing in, incorporating customs or traditions into a family.
Right. Oh my gosh, it's so true.
Yeah.
I just kind of want to leave it at a couple of things here, like boundaries are healthy. Set your boundaries. Repair. I think that's so important.
So important. Yeah.
And families. Families are unique. They're unique.
Absolutely.
And I think we're going to be learning things that you and I could never have imagined.
Absolutely. And everybody has a place.
Everybody has a place.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I also want to mention here that few things. Shirley and I have a class on June 27th. Mm-hmm. Please join us. It's called Why Do They Act That Way and What You Can Do About It. If you've ever found yourself asking, why do I attract the same type of people? Do they make me feel guilty? What is going on with this pattern? Shirley and I are going to be talking about personality disorders, narcissists, borderline, sociopath. And we have enough room in the class that if you want to be asking us questions, Shirley and I in real time will talk to the class about what the situation is. We're very good about that.
And we're going to make it a point to have enough time, to save enough time to do a Q&A.
To definitely do a Q&A, because a lot of people have a lot of things going on. And if you purchase it, you can get it at kelleewhite.com. If you purchase it and you can't watch it, then we'll send it to you when it's over. We'll send that to you. And another thing I want to mention is that, Shirley, you and I are going to be taking July off.
Yes.
And we're going to take July off. So we're going to come up with some new topics. And if you guys have any suggestions for topics for the two of us, please, you can email them to psychologyandthesoul.com. You can go onto that site and you can certainly send them to me. You can always email them to me too. And about topics that you guys want to hear, because we're here to, we have a lot of things that we can talk about between spirituality and psychology. So I think that'll be a good thing. And then this Thursday, join me with James Van Praagh, because we're going to be doing predictions.
Yay, that's wonderful. Yeah, and we love feedback. Let us know what's working, what isn't working. We love feedback, because this is for you. We really do this to, everything that we've learned to share with you.
Yeah. Seriously, it's true. And Shirley and I love to, share everything that we've learned. And yes, JVP is going to be in the house on Thursday. So that is going to be very fun. He's so fun. And again, everybody's going through all these challenges and changes here. It's going to be fun to see what's going on with James and to do predictions. But really, Shirley and I mean this. If you guys have any suggestions or topics, please let us know. Okay. As this world is evolving, it's like a soap opera, Cheryl, as the world turns, right? It's the world turns as the grandparents go, what is this you're doing now? And Holiday, if you're watching, I think I did you good. I hope so.
You did. You absolutely did.
All right, Shirley. It's great to see you. Bye, everybody. See you Thursday.
Everybody.